The Ray Rice case has brought domestic violence to the forefront of the national conversation. It's raising serious questions about how the NFL handles abuse against women. Calls to the National Domestic Violence Hotline increased 84% in the 2 days following the release of that video showing Rice knocking out his then fiancée and now wife. Tanya Brown knows the impact of domestic violence all too well. She's the youngest sister of Nicole Brown Simpson, who was married to former NFL star O.J. Simpson. Nicole was murdered, of course, in 1994, 2 years after the couple divorced. O.J. Simpson stood trial for her murder and was acquitted. Tanya is now a speaker for domestic violence prevention. She joins us now. Thanks for being with us, Tanya.
Hey, how are you?
Wonderful. Look, a radio broadcaster put some of the blame on Janae Rice, as you just heard us discuss. It still seems like a lot of people don't understand the cycle of violence that occurs in these cases. Can you explain it to us?
Absolutely. I think, if people question this, I think leaving the word why out of that question, because anytime we ask the question with a why, it's kind of like a judgment question. So I like to rephrase that. What are the reasons that makes a woman stay? And only that person knows the violence and the threats, the personal threats. If you ever leave me, I'll kill you, I'll kill your family, I'll find you. O.J. killed my sister's cats and dogs. He threw my sister's cat out on the freeway on her birthday. So they will kill anything that's closest to them and that they adore and love. So there are many reasons why they stay, and what the reason is that they stay. There's a lot of fear based around domestic violence. There's a lot of shame. There's a lot of guilt also. So it's more like the woman, the victim will wave the white flag and say, you know what, if I just keep my mouth shut and keep the peace, I won't get hit. So those are many factors as to what, the reason why women do stay.
Do you have any idea what's going on in the heads of these guys? I mean, it was drummed into me from a very, very early age that not only you just never, ever, ever hit a woman. Do you think that they're getting some kind of perverse satisfaction from it? Do they just have a lack of self-control?
I think it's a lack of self-control. These are guys that are trained to beat people up on the NFL, out on the field. I'm a football fan, right? So I love watching the game. But I really think a lot of education needs to be based around educating these football players, because they are big guys, they are fast guys, they are powerful, and here we are, we're compared to those guys, we're small. So you're going to raise a hand to a woman of that, stature, of that height and that weight, you could knock her out like what we saw, and you can end up like Nicole. So I think a lot of education. There's never any judgment from me. I believe firmly in order to really eliminate this problem or at least reduce it, there needs to be education for all the football players, and not just the pro athletes. We're talking the high school players going into college, playing football, and maybe even going into pro. It's all education, and education is prevention. And I want to stand in front of people and say, you know what, this happened. My brother-in-law, my ex-brother-in-law, couldn't control his anger, and he lashed it out on my sister, and she ended up getting killed. So this is not anything to be taken lightly. We really need to take this, very seriously.
What do you think of how the NFL is handling this particular case of Ray Rice?
You know what? Let's cover up what happened. When I heard that they've had this tape since April. When are people going to step up and take responsibility for their actions? Why were they covering up? Why were they covering this up? Because of money, maybe? I was a Baltimore fan. I have a feeling they lost me because I lived in Baltimore for a little while. So what were they covering up? And what was the reason behind that? Is it because of money, viewership, commodity, promotional items? They're going to be losing a lot of money based on this. So. And I hate to say it, it's also an old boys club. So, these guys stick together. And I think in order to make really good change, I want one man to put their foot down and say this is completely unacceptable. I'm looking for that one person. I know Steve Young spoke out about it. Zero tolerance.
Yeah. The NFL also knew that O.J. Simpson had a history of abuse. Do you hold them responsible for Nicole's death?
You know what? I think early on there were so many incidences happening with my sister. The police were called out to her home numerous times, and we've heard the 911 tapes. We also saw pictures of her being battered, and with her standing in front of the courtroom or in front of the court Well, we all saw it in her sweatpants and so forth. So firmly, I think it even goes before the NFL. My sister documented abuse since 1978, so she was one of the women who was beaten before she was married, and she still married, her soulmate. So I think early on, even, because I was like 8 when I met him, so he was already, I think, pretty much retired at that time. I think he retired when I was 12. So it not only needed to stop with the NFL, but it needed to stop way before that.
What should happen culturally, institutionally here to change the NFL?
The contracts need to be changed. The constitution of the NFL needs to be changed. We need that stuff down on paper, because now I knew that they would find some sort of loophole. And sadly, we may see Ray Rice back in uniform by the end of the year. Again, no judgment. Just take responsibility for your actions. Get some anger management education. But really, I think if we bring this guy out on the field again, our voices don't matter. And I think a lot of angry advocates are going to be calling in. And I think that hand needs to be out on the table and change this constitution within the NFL. No more loopholes.
Why do you say no judgment? Why are you so generous on that? I look at that videotape, and if I were big enough, I'd want to smash his head in. I want to lock him up in jail. I want to throw him in jail. I feel judgment.
Yeah, me too. You know what? No judgment. What he did was absolutely wrong. Absolutely. But you know what? People will not get better until they take responsibility for their actions. Own it. Take responsibility. Does it excuse what he did? Absolutely not. And believe me, I have felt the exact same. When I saw that videotape, it really, I had a visceral reaction, because now I know what it looked like when my sister was beaten. So believe me, I had some anger built up. But we're not going to make a change in this world if people aren't educated on this, take responsibility for their actions, and understand that if you do this, and if he does this again, you could kill her. So we need to take this very seriously.
Thanks for being with us, Tanya. Good to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
If you or a loved one is experiencing domestic abuse of any kind, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline. That's 1-800-799-SAFE.